Good morning, or from where my location is, good afternoon. I am Andrea, and I am here with DeAnna. We are coming to you for Ask DeAnna Anything. This is a live show where you ask your questions here. And we've also gotten some questions coming to us in the past that we're going to be addressing. And so how are you doing today, DeAnna?
Doing really good. Everything is great. I will tell you one thing, Andrea, because I know you're not in your normal setup, but I'm looking at my beautiful hands to my heart in the picture. I saw you flash on there for a moment, so I just thought I'd aha, oh, you look good too. So see if we can get you on there.
Thanks.
But
yeah, I'm not in my usual setup, so hopefully everything will go okay.
Yeah, and we can hear you. So even if everyone's looking at my face and then also my hands and heart, it's kind of cute. It's
That's
like you
totally
can see
fine.
right at my shoulders, and then the rest of me is right below. It's kind of
yeah, they're not here for me.
But yeah, life is good, hanging in there. I think everyone else is kind of in that hanging in their state. I've been noticing that through emails and correspondences and interactions, just a lot of more unknown. And how can we stay comfortable and stay in our flow, even in unknown times? We're still in them. You know, I talked about them so much through what we called the pandemic, but now it's become, what life looks like. And there has been viruses and things that are contagious for a long time. And it's really making us look at the variations. But I've just noticed a lot of people sitting in unknown times and just reminding us all that that just means you get to mastermind something and you get to see and help it land somewhere. And you don't have to get too involved and invested either. You can just kind of what is that? And maybe we all just need to sit in that unknown, since we've been driving our way through life for so much time. So I'm just giving everyone that reminder, because I've just been noticing it, and kind of interesting, put the masks back on. But that's not hard for me, because I feel like it's good etiquette right now. I don't feel like we are out of the woods. I never felt we were out of the woods. So I've actually been one of those people in public who is wearing my mask when I'm close to proximity to people, because I just think it's a good idea for a little bit longer. So, those are unknown too. We don't even know what to do when we go up to a door now in public. You're like, do I put it on? Do I not? Do I this? Do I that? Vaccinated, not vaccinated, just all of it is still up. And so, yeah, everybody just hang in there, keep breathing, and we'll see where we land. It's okay to be up in the air with it all for a little bit longer. Yeah. Exactly. So Andrea, right. Do you have some good questions for me?
I do. There's a couple real juicy ones. The first one was from our last broadcast. It came through from Xochitl. And she wanted to ask about immunity support for those who are houseless. So can you talk to that?
Yes. Okay. Oh, first off, hello, Sochi. Really nice to be connecting with you. And I think about you. So, let's talk about this. What do we do with this houseless situation when you're trying to consider being healthy? So, there's a few things that I think are really important. I don't know anyone who's been in a houseless situation that wasn't having extreme stress and a really hard time. It's in challenge. So I'm going to give you one of the most basic. Everyone might roll their eyes, literally so basic. You might roll your eyes right now. And I just want to remind us that breath and practicing breathing is the best coping mechanism we have, because it's what holds our innate energetic balance. So in challenging times, It's really easy to suck it in, suck it up, and just really get locked in. And you have to remember that we have to expand out into the world still, even when we don't know our place in the world, because our home gives us a place. And we have to be willing to come back to self with the exhale. And it's free. I mean, honestly, it's free. And there's usually some time that can be utilized that I think is very important. And then the other thing that I think is getting out of the mundane part of that houselessness. So, or the pattern is really what I want to put it in. So something that happens, and this is coming from my work with the Houseless in San Francisco, it gets really normal to get in conversations and get really invested in the other people that are houseless because they're your neighbors, and the world becomes your neighbors because you're out in the world living. And you have to remember to find your park and hang out in the park. You have to think about, like, where are you going to set up? And maybe it's according to a park. I just think nature is overlooked. And if you don't take walks and go out into nature or hike and go up in on a hill, I think those are things that become imperative, and they go along with that breathing too. Letting yourself stroll through the world, still enjoy the world, even when being houseless is not an easy world to live in at all. And so I'm giving some things that might seem like, come on, give me something else. I'll give you a few other things else, no problem. But I don't want to overlook the very truth of nature, oxygen, breath, coping, and staying in an innate flow that is bigger than the situation and the humanness of the suffering. So I got to just give a shout out, and there are times when I am absolutely a tree hugger. I may not go around, just like calling that out, but I do believe in continuing laughing, like I spoke about last month, and smiling. But I'm a big believer of, like, grounding out with earth and trees, and really, remembering something bigger than where you're at in the moment. Then there's a few other things that I learned very well, because when I lived in San Francisco, I lived in the Tenderloin, and I was there specifically. I chose to live there because I wanted to understand this population. I wanted to support this population, and I was really in support to the trans population that was primarily in this little place of the Tenderloin, and it wasn't as beautifully diverse and kind of a little bit more freedom that is now. Let's hope for even more. But I was a freedom fighter back in those times, wanting to look at these people who were houseless and really struggling with who they were. And I worked at the Shanti Project. It's connected to Food Not Bombs, Polk Street. And that was my world. Man, Polk Street is very different now. Did not used to be like that. It's all fancy now. And, really what I learned at the Shanti Project, I did haircuts and I did pulse readings. I was doing my early days of Ayurveda. And what I learned was, really it was my work with HIV, and most everyone was HIV positive. And that was part of why they were there, getting this beautiful resource. And what I learned is how many people on the streets have parasites or worms or a foreign invader, or they're living with a virus. It's just a common thing, or even an infection because they have a wound and they don't have good nutrition. And then what are they going to do? So this was a really common theme. And I just want to remind us that when the immune system is working really hard or trying to fight something, it makes a lot of mucus. That's why we get congested when we're sick. It's like we flare like a fire, and our body makes water if it's available, but it makes it in the form of mucus, and then we get congested. So most people with HIV who end up with full-blown AIDS end up in a situation where they get pneumonia and bronchitis and have a lot of lung conditions. If you've ever walked down into an encampment or an area where people are houseless, there's a lot of coughing. There's a lot of sniffling. If you really pay attention, it's the same thing as being in India or when I'm, in other regions where there's low nutrition value. So congestion is a huge, huge, huge thing because that brings you down. It's like being stuck in the mud, so you're already like houseless and now you're in a situation where you're all gunked up and sticky, and it just doesn't help you to feel well in your self-worth or even want to breathe because it makes the lungs not expand and contract. So dealing with congestion is huge, and I'm going to give you a couple things that someone could take a nature walk and find and could be using all the time. And then there's one item that you can also get to a store that has healthy salts, and we can talk about that. And those are very inexpensive. So what I find is really best is for lung and just even ancestral, like somebody feeling like they failed and they're houseless, or they're not connected to their family, or they don't have support, which has made them houseless. I want us to think about rosemary. Rosemary is a plant that you could even find sometimes in the front of like a liquor store or Safeway or like anywhere. I mean, I'm just saying, like if you really pay attention, people put rosemary all over the place because it grows really magical. It makes it through the winter. It's cheap. You don't have to water it to keep it around. And so people use this as an ornamental, but it is amazing medicine. And it's grandma medicine. So it's ancestral medicine. And what do you want to breathe into, and who do you want to become from whatever is the truth of your situation? And it's such a good expectorant. And most people, you see a lot of rosemary extract in beauty care and products because it's got high oxygen. So it actually acts as a preservative. And that's why you see rosemary extract in products. They're using it as a preservative for oxygen levels. So think about that for your body, preservation and oxygen levels, and just how far, maybe a 2-inch little stem, because the more you pick rosemary, the more it grows. So you also are not hurting that plant by picking a little bit off. And that 2-inch has tons and tons of little leaves. And if you would just munch and nosh on those leaves throughout the day, chew, 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 get your saliva working, swallow it, add it to your water. If you get some hot water in the day, you find some boiling water somewhere, or someone's giving you an offering, or you're lucky to even have a tea kettle with electricity, because some people don't even have that. Then, if you're lucky enough to find that, then you can also make a beautiful rosemary tea, really concentrated, and, make like a mason jar. And then you just keep drinking that throughout a couple days. It'll last about 3 days, even unrefrigerated, because I have to think about these things when I'm working with somebody who's houseless. I can't think electricity. I can't think, refrigerator. So I have to be very considerate to that. Like, what plant can you find? Rosemary mint would be really good here. Oregano is really good here. You got to touch plants. You got to smell plants. Sometimes somebody has no idea they walked by oregano or marjoram or thyme because they didn't stop, like I say, stop to smell the roses. They didn't stop to smell the plant. Put your fingers on the plant. Like, you will know thyme when you smell it. You will know rosemary. You will know mint. You will know, maybe not marjoram, but you'll know it's kind of oregano-y. And most people know oregano when they smell it too. And then there's nothing stopping you from just taking a little couple of those leaves and pinching them off. Don't want to pull, or you're going to destroy the plant and the roots. So you have to remember to go right to the top of maybe where the leaves are coming out, and you go right to the top of that and leave that leaf and pinch it off there, take off the top, and then it'll keep growing. So we do want to think about what it is to make sure that plant is there for you in that area where you were staying, and how to take care of that. Sometimes when we start taking care of plants and taking in plants, it just innately becomes taking care of yourself and watering yourself. And if you have more lung capacity, you are definitely going to be able to, do that better. The other part of this, and what I did at Shanti Project, is gray salt, which you can get in any health food store. It can be Celtic. Actually, it's like $3 at Trader Joe's. So just giving a shout out, that you can find these things, and you want to get a gray salt, and you can make, what I did with Shanti Project is I made little salt snorts, literally 1 ounce of water, 2 teaspoons of gray salt in a little bottle. And what I started getting everybody to do, because they were getting so much pneumonia and they needed electrolytes. Let's remember, I have an ebook, Try Enough Hydration, but please remember, this is good salt. This is not table salt. This is not white salt. It's unprocessed electrolytes. And something you want to think of in these electrolytes is they break down mucus, but they also give you a lot of energy, and they're very expansive, and it's electromagnetic energy. It's like turning the lights on. That's where it gets its name, electrolytes, electricity. So keep that in mind. You want to kind of boom, get your longevity up and get your hydration up. So you got a little juice to do whatever's next. And I have them snort that because, I did notice, and it's not uncommon that, especially in that timeline, for people to be snorting things, living on, the streets and really struggling. And then there's just all these plethora of options that are right in your face that keep you kind of in this vein. That's why I talk about getting out to nature, because you want to mix it up a little and not get too involved in the other things going on in an encampment, or even being alone and wanting time. So why not snort sea salt? In Ayurveda, they've been snorting oil and snorting sea salt. Saline solution, we've been snorting and using saline solution for centuries. So you just put a little teaspoon, fill the cap up in your 1 ounce, put a little teaspoon in your hand. I'm showing you so that it's not so scary. People get so scared to do this. And I'm like, let me just show you. And then they're like, oh, I can do that. Put it in your other hand. And you can do that a couple times a day. And by the way, gray salt in your average store is, again, 10 ounces maybe, for very little money. So you can really get, it may not be exactly the same quality as I like to, carry. So mine's a little more expensive, but I send people to Trader Joe's when I know they can't afford that finest one, or the one I really procured specifically. I'm like, so what? You can get gray salt in the store, go for it. It's, and really make sure that you look at the value of what's available. So you could be doing your electrolytes. You can definitely still be using a gua sha. That could be a nice little rock you found on your walk. It's just got a nice, it could be a wooden spoon. It could be a 99-cent Chinese, ladle spoon. It is so easy to find something that's got a little nice clean edge that's not going to scratch or hurt you. And you really work the system. And you are going to have to keep yourself open and keep yourself embodied enough. We got to open up, and then we have to go inside. And then that's where we start saying, what am I going to do? It doesn't matter how I got here anymore. Doesn't matter what this created this. What am I going to do? What do I want moving forward? How am I going to get there? How am I going to change this? And it's really all you got when you're down in those depths, is to feel good enough and worthy enough for change. And that's what it comes down to. It gets reduced down. We even stop breathing and walking in nature because we start believing we don't even deserve change. And that's when it gets kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa now. Yeah, you deserve to go out into nature. You deserve to, find a home or find that money income. So, and you deserve to get help if you don't feel, because the truth is some people don't feel functional enough to get a job or look for a home. They're too sick. They don't feel good. So what are you going to do to say, gosh, I got to figure out first how to feel just a little bit better, just a little bit more energy so that I can figure out how I'm going to, get out of this. And sometimes that's just really also support. I'll tell you one thing. When I go into one of the stores I go to and there's somebody outside and they say to me, because I've had this happen, and they say, hey, while you're in the store, do you mind getting me a few things? I'm like, you want some things from this lovely store? I'm down. But it feels really different when maybe somebody is more saying, can you give me some money? And then I don't know where it's going. I don't know what it's for. I can't promote that. That's not a conscious support. So I think of that out in the world. It's like, if you're houseless, I would give you the truth of like, it might be okay to go to your local herb store or health food store and actually wait until you see a kind person walking through and say, hey, I really need some gray salt, for my electrolytes, or like, I really need a magnesium spray because I'm in pain and I need magnesium because I'm in pain. Because anybody living in pain who's put you on the road, on the street, that is real. And a lot of people, that is the bottom line, is that there is pain in their life, pain in their body. And it's hard to function with pain. It is absolutely hard. And you need foundationals. You need to breathe. You need electrolytes. You need some magnesium. Like, these are things that I think are okay. And if somebody gave me a little list when I went into my store, I'm sorry, but I would be so one of those people who would be like, I can accommodate a few of these things on the list. I'm going to see what it looks like when I'm in there, and I'll come out with a couple of your items. Love to do it. And so how do you be houseless and ask for the kind of help that's really going to help you? There's a lot of things you could do with money, you know what I mean? But, how are you going to start saying, I got to get healthy and I need health support? So a different way of asking for help, a different value. And I think, that's another way to help yourself when you're houseless. And I'm trying to be as realistic as I can, because I do know this reality. And I have worked within this reality. And it's just, I just want to give a shout out to Sochi on just how real this is. Whether you yourself are in this situation or whether you are working with people who are in this situation, it's real. And there's pain involved, and there's fatigue involved, and there's emotional struggles involved. And how are we going to do some kind of turnaround? And then also, do you have a friend who's also in the situation? And can there be a different kind of conversation than just the conversations that are being had? So can there be a conversation of like, what if we both got some gray salt and some magnesium and we gave each other a massage, rubbed each other's backs every day? Like, would we have more energy? I'm afraid to leave my stuff where I am habiting on the street, because you might say, I can't go in nature, my stuff will get stolen. That's why you have to create community no matter where you are, because it might be, asking someone just, who you trust to say, man, I really need help. Can you kind of hang out with my stuff for a minute? I need to take a walk. And when do you want to take a walk? And I'll watch your stuff. So you got to figure out how to really get the support you need. But there are some cheap medicines right on the road. A lot of chamomile growing out of street cracks. Seriously, a lot of cleavers growing right out of the cracks on a street or in the middle of a parking lot. you want to look for these things: the chamomile, the dandelion, the cleavers, plantain. These are literally growing, and we think they're just weeds. We get so used to them, we don't even see them as medicine. And anything green has magnesium and has vitamins and minerals. So think of them as vegetables. You know, you're like, oh, lemon balm, you know, ooh, okay, that's my vegetable today. If I don't have anything else, I at least have these greens to keep my body mineralized. So this is where I go. I obviously have a fair amount to say about this topic.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. We've got Anna here with us. She's got a question, and we'll be able to get to that in just a second. But first, we had a question that came through via email from Kate. She said 3 years ago, she received a breast check and massage at the Herbal Symposium. And she learned all about hydration and was recommended to get a fermented cod liver oil from a particular company. She used it regularly for about 1.5 years. And then later she'd found an article about that company's oils, noting that they were rancid. So she's wondering about that. And so there's like a couple of questions here. First, what do you do when you run across an article where a company has some criticism lobbied at them? And then, you know, how does it work with fermented oils? What can you tell us about that?
Okay. So first off, I would go to I like this question. I would first go to the idea that you had already been using the product. And I would ask yourself if you feel that product has been serving you, and does that product feel good? Feel good when you look at it, feel good when you take it, feel good in your hands. We do get to decide whether our plants and remedies are really working or not. And it sounds like you were using it for enough time, since, you know, essential fatty acids, fish oil, a little quicker, but, you know, they take a couple months to really feel them. You know, I always say 1 pill, 2 pill, 3 pill. I say this all the time. They're accumulative, they're long-term. So hopefully you were on it long enough to kind of say, did it make a gloss on your nails? Did it strengthen your nails? Did you notice your hair being a little less split ends or a little more lustrous? Did you notice your skin just feeling a little bit stronger? These would be the things you get from EFAs long-term. And fermented cod liver oil is a long-term omega. It's a full spectrum omega, and it's also a protein at that. So whoever gave you that remedy was also wanting to make sure you got more protein in your omega. And that's when we would give someone fish oil. Fermented just makes that fish easier to digest. We can talk about fermentation if we have time. So I would first go personal, you know, because when you read an article, you have to know that, like, it's good to have heads ups. I like to read articles. I like to know good and bad information about anything I'm looking into. I mean, that's why reviews, you know, exist. But I also know that reviews can be one-sided, and, you know, and publications and different articles can be one-sided. So then you have to consider, is this proven, or was it a situation? You know what I mean? Like, is this like, whoa, the batches for the last 3 years were rancid? You know what I mean? Well, hey, that's bad news. Like, that's bad news bears. Like, that is not okay. Did someone find one rancid batch? Well, gosh, it happens. I'm sorry, but it does happen. And that just makes the business need to be more accountable and smarter about their batches and watching their expiration dates and what are they putting, you know, in their jars better. But those things do happen that make a business have to just step up. And I'm okay with the business stepping up. So that's the next part. Did you see this company step up, or what did they say to the article? What was their slant on the situation, or are they speaking up about their slant? Or are they kind of like, oh my gosh, this is so beyond us. We are crazy, so on with our batches. We would never put rancid in here. Like they may just be like, I can't even imagine someone saying this, you know, and I would want their opinion. So I want to know a little bit more about the article. This is just like research. I'm sorry, but we like trust research. We hear research, we trust research. I'm like, who wrote that article? What was their intention? And was it an isolated situation, or was it really strategic research? So you got to ask these things. And I would ask that company. I'd call and say, gosh, I read this article. You know, I just kind of really want someone to explain to me, you know, and maybe email so they have time to really collect their thoughts, and they're not just caught off guard, and then you're getting a caught off guard on the cuff answer, right? So maybe there's just a little bit of a like, let me just check in with this. So I think we have to think for ourselves, and did that product feel good and work for you? There's something to be said for that. And if the answer is yes, then, you know, it's working for you. And then I think we have to look at the standards of the company and really trust the company has good intentions, and make sure you know if they do or not. Ask questions, email and ask, see what your answer is. And then look at the article itself and ask more detailed questions about that article. So I just think sometimes these things can lead, you know, to some very tricky. We want to call out what's not being done appropriately in companies, but I also think it's tricky because it could become somebody, you know, gaslighting, somebody, you know, really putting an opinion out there that was just an opinion. And then it's not really fair to an entire company that might be working really, really hard to make sure that this is a quality product. So just, I think this is great information for all of us to consider, but it's also how I look at research and development, you know, and I would want to know what they did to change their ways if that was true, you know. So there's that piece. And then the only other thing that I'm hearing in here is it was fermented cod liver oil. So maybe I'm just going to take one moment and we'll see what this other question is, but I just want to, I'm having a hard time with seeing rancidity with fermentation. So maybe this, maybe it wasn't about the cod liver oil fermented. Maybe it was about other oils they have. I'm kind of curious what product, was it an isolated product? Are they saying all the oils are rancid in their products? But fermentation keeps things from going rancid. That's why people keep their apple cider vinegar in the fridge, but there is no reason for it to be in the fridge. And to be honest, when it's cold in there are certain probiotics that you will never get from that apple cider vinegar because fermentation is room temp. It's room temp, if not even some of them slightly warm, kind of like making yogurt. Cultured, dairy and cream, coconut milks, dairy and milk cultures, like coconut kefir or making a fresh yogurt, they need a warmer temperature that still keeps them raw to be able to even create the probiotics that are available in that fermentation. Whereas apple cider vinegar or kraut, things that are more in a water liquid, it doesn't have the fat content of a culture. It has water content and then whatever, food is being fermented in it. Those are more room temp. And then sometimes if you want to really stoke them and get them to like create a mother ferment, if you really want to stoke them up, you can warm them up a little bit and put them in the sun, and then you put them back in a corner in the kitchen. So you can activate them with heat, but they don't need heat and they don't do well with heat. They'll get destroyed with too much heat, but they also won't be active if they're kept in the fridge. So there's just some interesting things about fermentation. It keeps things from, the reason fermentation and aging processes were created for like milk, making aged cheese, or aging meats. The reason we went into these things centuries ago was to combat rancidity. So I find it interesting that I'm like, we're talking about fermented cod liver oil. And I'm like, how then would it go rancid? So that's just a little extra bonus that's in my brain as I'm listening to this really cool question. You know, I'm just kind of like, how did that go rancid? Could it have been another oil they were talking about? But if it worked for me, I think if the research didn't lead me anywhere that seemed insane or unreasonable, and the company just had some batch issues, you know, I probably would still keep using the product because it worked for me. And I just make sure they're on top of it now, you know. I like to think people can mend their ways. You know what I mean? And yeah, I'll look into what this company is myself. And we chose not to mention it here because it didn't seem like that was appropriate. But I will look into it myself and see, you know, what that looks like. It is a company I love. So, yeah. All right.
Good deal. All right. And then Anna, who is here. Hi, Anna. Anna is curious what supplements you suggest for possible metal poisoning from a cracked metal crown in the tooth.
What possible what? Plants?
Supplements. Yep.
Okay. So remedies. Yeah. Okay. So heavy metals. Now, the first thing I want to say about this is your body could be digesting that cracked mercury. Some people's bodies digest it quite well. Other people's do not. I'm not a fan of heavy metals. I'm just kind of giving that as a starter point because I think it's important to get a heavy metal panel. Great Smoky Labs is easy to get to now. You can do it yourself and you could do an entire panel through your hair. And I just think it's important to know you have a heavy metal, because if you assume you have a heavy metal and you don't, chances are you do, but still, if you didn't, you're putting yourself in a pretty deep cleanse. And if you don't need that cleanse, it's going to totally dehydrate your body. So, and then you really didn't help yourself. It was more off of like a fear of those metals. And metals are cold, which is funny because cold is fear. So heavy metals make people actually worry. You might be all, I think I do have heavy metals, but they make us worry. They bring on fear. They contract us. They cause a lot of calcification, like crunchy munchies in the joints and bones. Or you're using your gua sha and you're getting, this is all calcification. You could just be dry and not absorbing calcium. But the most common thing we see with that is somebody who is not breaking down calcium because the heavy metals are in their body. So I just want to give a little shout out to that. Like it's a pretty, deep cleanse. But I'm going to give you some advice on what you can do. Like say you're like, I know I have these. Okay. And we're talking about mercury. So call it a namak, which I sell. It's simple stuff. It's an electrolyte, but it's a sulfur electrolyte. And it smells very eggy. It's super sulfur. And you can do up to a teaspoon of that every day. And it acts as your morning electrolyte. So you do like a half a teaspoon of warm water in the morning instead of the gray salt. And then you do another one before bed. It will make your bowels move more. I'm going to absolutely put enemas into this conversation. But you got to clear out your bowels. So the two things you got to do with heavy metals, you have to not just try to strip them out. They will attach to the bone. They're heavy metals. Metal is the word inert. So they're inert and they're stuck. You can't just rip them off your bone with the liver cleanse. You know what I mean? You're going to have to liquefy them. So anything sulfur including asafoetida, kala namak, and anything sour. Wow, we're back to fermentation. Because like 4 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar a day, totally great remedy for heavy metals in a really safe way, because that's going to help your probiotic gut too. So I've worked hard to find hydrating, active ways to break them down. And we need sour compounds. So you can do fermentation in apple cider vinegar, but that includes sumac as a spice. It includes bilva. It includes amchur, which is mango seed powder. I have all of those, and they all are very tasty. They make a beautiful, like if you put bilva and amchur with cardamom, beautiful tea, beautiful tea. I put bilva and amchur and I use it as a spice, just like they do in India. And then I just have my plant medicine right in my food. And sumac, if you haven't tried it, oh my, it is good on everything possible you could think of. Like, it's just like the most sprinkly, user-friendly. You always want more. And it just, sour compounds liquefy. So they're just liquefying those metals. And then you do intestinal cleanse. Okay, you could drink, call magnesium, and it'll help you to move your bowels. You could do an enema once a week, and that would clear your bowels. But I say, if you are liquefying heavy metals, you're probably needing to have 4 bowel movements a day to get them out. And that's getting them through the most healthy channel ever, which is down and out your intestines. That's why we want our colon and our intestines to be clean and clear. It's our seat of health. But those heavy metals don't just sit in the gut. They seep out into the lymph and the blood and the muscle and the skin layers and the bones and the nerves. So sweating, liquefy the metals and sweat them out. So that can be a salt scrub, like you could do the cleansing salt scrub, make yourself a little cup of the cleansing tea. I have to do a cleansing, salt scrub, turn really pink, lay in the tub, sweat like crazy in your shower, and just let hot water pound down on you until you sweat. And you can sweat in the shower. It's just hot water on your back, sitting down. You're going to sweat actually better. And you're just breathing, just deep, full breaths, and you'll break a sweat. So you don't need a tub to do it. But these are the things that, really are the clear picture of like how to safely get those heavy metals out. The other mistake people make is they want to cleanse, like, I'm going to do a 2-week cleanse, and they want them all to be gone. And it just doesn't happen. They took a long time to build up in your system. There's been a slow drip in your mouth. Sorry, but it's true. So it's been slowly accumulating and then moving out into the tissues. So if you would dedicate 3 months to sour, sulfur, and enema intestinal cleanse, you will liquefy those metals and you will dump those metals and sweating. And over 3 months' time, I'm going to be really honest, summer's not the best time to start this. It would be better to start to get hydrated right now and like really build up your fluids, and then start your cleanse in fall. If you feel like you don't have anything but the time right now, then go for it. But sour and kala namak are a little bit heating. I mean, it's breaking down a metal. Doesn't it take a lot of heat to like melt? I mean, think of welders. It takes a lot of heat to melt down a metal. So summer is hot. This wouldn't be the time to be adding hot. This would be the time to get your body really built up and ready and flushing the primary, sediment out of your kidneys, which we do with just high amounts of water. If you did like a dandelion, chamomile, lemon balm, sun tea right now, and then added your good gray salt in there and just make a like electrolyte gentle cleansing. And then once you get into the even just a little before fall, or if you do feel like you run cold and that heat won't hurt you, then you can start now. If I started that right now, being Pitta, I'd be rashy and sweating and all kinds of things would be eruptive. So I would have to kind of wait a little moment. But you can eat sour compounds and fermentation. And that's not going to throw you into a cleanse. They're more daily cleanse. I think of that as daily food cleansing, and beautiful thing about it, like kraut, you're cleansing, but you're also building blocks of probiotics at the same time. You could do that apple cider vinegar now. You could do the bilva, the amchur, the sumac now. But I would probably wait on the kala namak and the full on going for it, until a little bit later if you run pitta.
She's also saying that the crown is still cracked and wonders, can she start this while it's cracked, or should she fix the crown and then start the hydration and the cleansing? Although I'm sure hydration and kidney support
you're going to start
no
matter, because if you're going to do dental, you want to be hydrated to do dental, so it's less trauma on your body. The juicier we are, the less trauma your body responds to. So a dry body responds to trauma very quickly, like a dentist, So hydration is absolute. I do tell people, I actually just told someone a couple weeks ago that I was working with, because they really wanted this cleanse and even deeper. I'm giving you good, general, healthy, get you started advice. Obviously, I have a few more tools up my sleeve, but they're more advanced and I need to know somebody to talk about them, or I could not be giving you safe advice, right? But this is the start. So I told this client, actually, I said, I feel like if you start doing all this, you still have that mercury in your mouth. I just had this conversation with someone. And then that means it's liquefying what's in your mouth too. And then that's going to drain in. How are you going to heal when you still have the slow drip? I do the same thing with cavities. Somebody, I find they have H. pylori, or they have bacteria in their gut, or SIBO. And then that bacteria in the gut directly relates to this cavity, or a couple or 8 cavities people have in their mouth. And you just have a slow drip of bacteria, infectious matter, just a slow drip going down into your gut. And then it just changes everything in your microbiome. So same thing here, I don't even know if I would do, I'm glad you're asking this, because I don't even know if I would do that much apple cider vinegar going through my mouth until that was fixed. So yeah, dental is first, always hydration, but dental is first. And then a lot of people know I'm a huge fan of DeAnna for dental. So, you want to go to American Biodental. I used to say Good Sam Dental. I don't say that anymore. They've become an entire network, and I can't guarantee the office I used to always go to. So I don't say that anymore. But American Biodental is my suggestion. And, it's going to be 1/4 of the cost if you don't have insurance. If you have a great dentist you love locally, then great. If you have insurance, great. But that's not true to everyone. And then say you can't get to DeAnna, or you don't feel safe to travel right now, or whatever, right? Let's say that's not a possibility. I do want people to know there are dental clinics. There's low-cost dental clinics. And there's one in Santa Rosa, and there's one in Guerneville. And I love the one in Guerneville. It is really, really nice. And I cracked a tooth a couple years ago, and they saw me in a flash. I was in pain, and they helped me out. And it was according to my income, so you just show them, your income, your tax return kind of thing. And then they charge you accordingly. Really nice people, super clean environment. I felt great there. I would not even hesitate, because I don't have insurance. I would not hesitate to go back there. I just happen to take care of my dental on my own, so I don't have any issues going on. Very different than my childhood. So I come from dental issues, but I have learned how to maintain that and handle that myself. And I have a great dental webinar if you're looking for like, how do I take care of my dental? And I do not take all day. It's like 5 minutes, boom, 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 before I go to bed. So there's the webinar there too, because I do want to empower people to take care of their own dental, but come on, cracked, yeah, you're going to have to take care of that. And I think that is first and foremost, and then you can start looking at those heavy metals getting liquefied and moving out of your body. Right now, you really could liquefy the metal more. So let's just be clear about that. Thank you so much for asking.
Perfect. That's brilliant. And I've posted a link for Anna and to anyone else who are interested in more personalized recommendations. DeAnna is still doing remote consultations. So that link is in the chat as well. Well, it looks like we just have a few more minutes. Anything additionally that you'd like to let us know about? We've got some new fun things that are coming up in future.
Well, I'm teaching Edible Ayurveda again with Mary Sheila Ganella. And we are teaching that one time a year now online. That will be ongoing. We have gotten it so down to a beautiful program. We're like, wow, we've worked on it for the last, I think we're on 6 years, but we've been working on this course for 6 years now, revising, tweaking, adding both of our knowledge, our heads, our hearts put together. It's been so amazing to work with Mary Sheila Ganella. If you need amino acid support or you're looking for a nutritionist, I really want to give a shout out to Mary Sheila Ganella. She is amazing. She's at Occidental Nutrition. That's where you can find her website and all her classes too. She does a great class on bone health. And I just can't say enough about knowing her. She may have started as a student, but at this point, we're both so equally learning from one another on the weekly. We have become great colleagues and dear friends. I'm so glad she lives right down the street from me. She's been one of my pandemic friends. And she's just brilliant, and she does amazing remote consults. But I think her next class isn't she doing another bone health class, or is she doing her blood sugar class?
I'd have to check the website for that.
Next, I would check. She does blood sugar and she does bone health. And those are two things. And by the way, your dental is a byproduct of bone. So if you have dental issues, you actually end up having bone issues. And she's all about how do you rebuild your bones and how possible it is to do so. We don't even think we can. And, she really breaks that mystery down. And her blood sugar level, for anyone who even thinks about diabetes or what is sugar in your life and what is it to have level energy without sugar, she is just brilliant. And then I get to teach Edible Ayurveda with her. It starts in October. So you have a little time. I believe registration is opening very soon. So I look forward to that myself. And then we'll start signing people up. So there's a wish list, I believe, right now. So you can just go on Edible Ayurveda. It says where to put your name and everything. And then once registration's open, we will let you know. We have amazing payment plans. So it makes it very doable for you to make this happen in your life. And it is a very full-bodied course. And what I mean by that is, well, really, it's a whole meal. We broke it down into appetizer, and that's foundations. And then we broke it down into, entree and dessert. And that is the meat and potatoes, or let's say vegetables and seaweed of the group. It's the hummus and cucumbers. and yeah, it's really powerful. A lot of anatomy, physiology, a lot of food science, but made super easy and friendly tons of remedies all the way through, but we take you through the entire digestive tract. How does your mouth work? What are the symptoms? If it's too hot, cold, wet, dry, what do you do? Stomach, too hot, cold, wet, dry, what symptoms? What do you do? We go through every organ in the body, and then we keep it connected to food and nutrition and spices throughout the entire course. Really good for even a family to
Good stuff.
You know, like if you want to know how to feed your family, you know, and who's an individual and who needs what, but you want to cook one meal, spices become your best friend because they can individualize each person in the family, you know, around cooking one meal, which is just easy and smart. And come on, there's only so much you can do. So, but yeah, we also like to take people into their practitionership through that course. So that's another part of it, is people who are maybe nutritionists already, because we go pretty advanced, even if someone in their basics could take it. We go pretty advanced because it was all the things that we couldn't find in other courses. So that was our approach. You know, look at all these brilliant nutrition courses, and then how do we fill any voids we see, or how do we make sure we offer something that's different, you know, and really serves the foundations, but like taking some new Ayurvedic information into your nutrition, you know, program or as a dietitian. So yeah, come one, come all, but that is the next class. I'm super excited about it. And, and you'll be able to take care of yourself along the way. So that's
a good one.
Guided for you as well as your practice.
That's perfect. And if you're wanting to share all of this juicy wisdom that DeAnna gives, we have a podcast. Makes it even easier for you to access this good information. We pull a lot of the information out of these live YouTube sessions, so you can share them with your friends, but you can find the podcast wherever you listen, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. And it's called Ask DeAnna Anything. It's a My Body podcast. So do take a look at that. And that's growing. We've had some folks binge listening, which is super fun.
Oh, it's so cute. Yep. People are like, I was listening to you in my car.
Yes.
And you make me laugh because you're laughing all the time in your podcast. Yep.
I love listening to podcasts when I go running. So you can learn anywhere you are. And then of course, DeAnnaEssentials.com is our blasting through website that is coming forward. So take a peek there. And we'll be back here in 2 weeks. Please make sure that you're following us on Instagram and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel here if you like what you heard today. So from Florida, saying I hope you have a wonderful day. And thanks so much for visiting with me, DeAnna.
Thanks for showing up on your vacation, Andrea. Yep. Shout out to Andrea getting a little time off. So let's just say thank you to Andrea for showing up for an hour out of her vacation. It's kind of hard to go back to work when you're away from work. So thank you for that.
I still remembered how to do stuff. It's pretty amazing.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me.